We'll be speaking to the the Tema Regional Police Command. They have issued a letter to the boss managing director inviting him to answer questions over those allegations. We'll be speaking to DCOP Nana Asumahene, who's just taken over the police command, by the way, for a response on this. We're trying to reach him on the line. We'll raise him. As soon as we raise him, we'll have that conversation. But we'll be talking about those death threats that the COPEC is raising. Also, we do have DCOP on the line now. DCOP Nana Asumahene is the new commander for the Tema Region Police. Sir, thank you very much for your time this afternoon. It appears that we've lost him again. We'll try and raise him and delve into that matter a bit more. But let's go over to Parliament now, and we're dealing now with Goldfields. We will come back to the issue of bust. But the minority leader, Haruna Idrisu, is expressing concerns about what he describes as a crisis situation to have befalling the mining industry. Citing the recent agitation at Goldfields mines in Takwa, he says the industry is on a sharp decline. The minority leader is backing calls for an audit of all mining sites across the country to ascertain the challenges facing the industry so we can find possible solutions. 5 workers yesterday sustained various degrees of injuries, and 8 of them were arrested when the workers attempted a strike to protest the layoff of some of the workers. Well, more than 1,500 staff are involved in the impasse. Let's go to Parliament and speak to our parliamentary correspondent Joseph Opoku Gakpo for what more the minority leader has been saying. Hello, Joseph.
Hello, Vicky.
Bring us up to speed. On what basis really is the minority leader raising those concerns? And I'm sure that there were some responses for him.
There was a general conversation around how Parliament passed the Mineral Development Fund in 2016, which requires that 20% of all the money that's coming from the gold sales should go to local authorities, and particularly chiefs in various areas as royalties to help with development. And that particular law hasn't been implemented since the year 2016. There was a statement on that from the Member of Parliament for the Abrim constituency demanding that as soon as possible Parliament impresses on government to enforce that particular law. And so other MPs made contributions to that. And Haruna Idrisu was drawing attention to the fact that in the gold sector, for example, we're having a crisis situation because a lot of the communities, the gold has actually run off and they are struggling to raise money for the construction of basic infrastructure there. And then he made reference to the situation with Goldfields as one of the several incidents of failing situations when it comes to the management of the gold sector. And so he went on to make the demand that as much as possible, Parliament sits up and enforce the necessary supervision so government implements the law to help lift up communities in the, various parts of the country where gold is dark.
Were there any inputs from the Mines Committee in Parliament? Because we understand that there was, they had some work to do in this area.
So the chairman of the Mines and Energy Committee has actually been backing that particular push that as much as possible government should implement the law in question and ensure that money gets down to all local authorities to help with development. So I've been speaking to the chairman of the Mines and Energy Committee as well about particularly the Goldfields situation, and he says it's something that they are really paying attention to. You would recall that there are a number of such cases pending before them. There was the previous petition that had gone to them from the General Mines Workers Union about 2 months ago. In fact, this petition went directly to Parliament and to the office of the Speaker, and he referred it to the Mines and Energy Committee. He says they are still investigating the issue. Very soon, a comprehensive report on how the various mines in the countries are being operated will be brought to the floor of Parliament for the necessary debate. But then, in the midst of the entire conversation, the Deputy Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, Benedict Owusu-Bio, passed a comment on the efforts that are being made to ensure that the royalties get to various local chiefs to help with development. And he says that a board is being set up to help manage that. The list has been sent to the state, and very soon the president will make the necessary appointment. And when that board is in place, resources will get down to the local level when it comes to gold mining communities for the necessary development.
It does appear as though they're looking at the bigger picture here. Did any of them really tackle the issue of, or the substantive issue on our hands at the moment of what's happening with the workers at Goldfields at the moment?
So they say this is something that from the previous petitions that have come to them, they are still looking into. And at the level of the Mines and Energy Committee, when the report is ready, they'll bring it to the floor of Parliament.
Joseph, thank you very much for that update. My colleague in the meantime, Benis Abubeidu, has been speaking with the Vice President and Head of Stakeholder Relations of Goldfields Company Limited on their own reaction to what the workers say so far.
We've been engaging the Ghana Mine Workers Union for a long time. We have business decisions to make, decisions that affect the sustainability of the mine, decisions that affect how long we are here for as a company, decisions that affect how we support our communities, decisions that affect the contribution that we make to the national economy, decisions that affect investors who have pumped their money into this business. So we are sitting here having to balance the interest of all these stakeholders, including the workers. Because let's not forget that if the company were to fold up in a few years' time, workers are going to be affected. Now, would you rather have a longer term of employment, even if it is with a contractor, or would you rather stick with, Goldfields and, face, a shutdown in a few years? We think about the worker, but we also think about other stakeholders, the government, our communities, because the development of our communities is very much dependent on our production as a company and our profitability. Our funding formula is, we have a foundation, and the funding formula for the foundation is tied directly to our profitability and our production. And so if we have to, fold up in a few years, it has implications also for communities, it has implications for government, it has wider implications than only the workers. And I believe that the Ghana Mine Workers Union are looking at the interest of the workers, or at least so they say. But we have interests, beyond that. We have several stakeholders that we have to address, and expectations that we have to meet.
Now, after you signed an agreement in early 2016 with the government of Ghana, your website stated that you saved some $33 million per your fiscal concession as a result of that 2016 agreement with government. I'm sure you're aware of that agreement. Yes. Sure you are. So many are saying that if the company could save this much, why do they need to even have a contractor? It means you were doing well as a result of that agreement.
Well, I think that's a very simplistic way of looking at it. Let's not forget that if we make a savings, right, that goes into the business, that goes into development, that goes into into exploration, the re-engineering of our operations. Our diamond mine, for example, was at the brink of collapse. We had to inject money into that operations. As we speak now, we've started the construction of a 33-kilometer road. That's going to cost us around $21 million. We intend to finish that maybe second quarter or third quarter of this year. So if you look at even that road construction alone, which is $21 million, that's eating up, the most of the 33 million that you're making reference to. Let's also not forget that government is a shareholder in this business. Whatever profits that we make, government has 10%. So it's a very simplistic way of looking at just the figures and saying, oh, well, you're making, this savings, and so, you're home dry. It's much more complex than that.
But per that agreement, you also had some tax cuts compared to other mining companies. So many feel this is a betrayal on the part of Goldfields to government and the people of Ghana.
It's important to understand, to explain this contract mining, model, because I've heard various reports saying that, oh, you're sacking people and you're leaving them with nothing. Well, what it is that there are several stages of the production chain. You have exploration, you have mining, you have processing, and all of that. Now, it's only the mining aspect of our business that we're giving to a contractor. Now, the savings that you're talking about that we're making from all of these, a lot of it goes also into exploration, because as we mine and continue to mine, the resources that we have, if we don't explore, are going to get exhausted. Mm-hmm. So it's important for us as a business looking at the longer term to put some money into exploration so that we'll be able to extend the life of the mine. Mm-hmm. Now, that's something that a lot of, the Ghana Mine Workers Union guys are now talking about. But this is really about the sustainability of the mine, ensuring that we are here for longer, so that, the benefits that accrue as a result of our operations, would go to all stakeholders. So it's really, there is no betrayal there. Mm. And when we give the mining aspect of our business to a contractor, what happens is that the employees that were with Goldfields already will be rolled over to the contractor after they getting paid their severance package. So if, for example, you are one of those and you've worked with Goldfields for, let's say, 10, 15 years, and there's so many of them who have, for each year that you worked for Goldfields, you'll be paid 3 months gross salary, multiplied by the number of years that you've worked. All right. So if you've been with us for 15 years, it's 3 months of your gross times 15 years. Plus, you get the opportunity to work for a contractor.
Is that guaranteed?
It was actually condition precedent that when we were looking for contractors to do this business, it was one of the conditions that you have to take on our employees. I mean, obviously, if there's a legitimate reason why the contractor cannot absorb an employee, that's made clear. But in the absence of that, yes, there is an obligation on them, and it's part of the contract that we signed with the contractor to absorb. We carried out a similar exercise in Daman, where about 80% of the employees were actually taken on by the contractor. So that really is is the arrangement.
That is Goldfields' reaction to all that's been happening. You're still watching The Pulse with me, Gifty and